Viewers, the Delhi police conducted multiple raids on an online portal called NewsClick today. Police teams swooped down in the morning hours to raid journalists associated with the portal and other locations associated with the media company. The raids come amid claims that NewsClick is funded by China, by Chinese deep state, to spread disinformation against India. The Delhi police have registered a fresh case against NewsClick under the stringent UAPA. Let me walk you through some of the charges. Section 16 of the UAPA Act, which involves terrorism, an act of terror to be specific. Section 17 of the UAPA, raising funds for terrorist acts. Section 18 of the UAPA, conspiracy to commit all these acts, viewers. Section 22C of the UAPA, offences by companies. Prima facie, viewers, these are very, very serious charges, and there could be long-term consequences if there is a conviction at the end of this entire process. Many people are already beginning to call this not process, not procedure, but persecution. Now, ordinarily, we should take a dim view of a crackdown by any state authority on a media organization. But in an interconnected world, misreporting or agenda reporting can have devastating consequences. Fake news is a menace. It has spawned societal turmoil, interfaith violence. Fake news has led to share markets collapsing, and we've seen this in India, viewers, with one particular company. And of course, in the past, fake news has also led to the overthrow of governments. It has even sparked wars between countries. There are numerous instances. But viewers, when the charges are that consequential, then we need to be very, very careful about where we tread. Now, viewers, it is equally true that because the media is so powerful today, it has such great reach today, that governments also want to control it. And that can lead the state to try everything and anything to muzzle or control those in the media. While I'm not saying that this is the case in this particular instance, I am saying that we need to be extra careful when going over the information associated with the crackdown, with this particular crackdown. The three big questions I'm going to pose to you, because they are very, very important and central to this entire debate. Viewers, let's look at the first question first. And it's on your screens. The opposition says that the raid on NewsClick is arbitrary. That NewsClick was doing its job, which is to question the powers that are in the government, and therefore it has been selectively targeted. We're going to look at this question in just a short while. Is the opposition's outrage selective? We've seen a large number of opposition parties and a large number of media organizations, viewers, enter this entire affair today by asking questions, condemning the crackdown. Are all these bodies, are all these opposition parties being selective in expressing their concern? That's another question we're going to be looking at, because it is fundamental to this debate. Is there a precedent of slapping UAPA or other stringent penalties on media houses, on free speech activists, on civil society? We'll get to all these questions, but first, viewers, let's look at the first question first. Now, to answer whether the raids by the Delhi police on NewsClick are arbitrary, we need to go back into time. Delhi police raids, viewers, follow an NYT August expose on NewsClick. The Indian media portal NewsClick got funds from abroad. That's what the NYT said. It also said, viewers, that the flow of funds has been traced to a US millionaire called Neville Roy Singham. Neville Roy Singham, said the NYT, is closely associated with Xi Jinping's Communist Party of China. The NYT article says that NewsClick pushed Chinese government propaganda, divisive propaganda that could shake the foundations of the Indian Republic. Besides this, the Enforcement Directorate in 2021 searched NewsClick's premise as part of a probe into alleged foreign remittances that had dubious antecedents. These are all claims by the Enforcement Directorate, not by me, not by the Hard Facts Show or by this channel. We're only giving you what the NYT had claimed and what the ED has claimed. NewsClick, on its part, has denied the allegations made by the New York Times and the Enforcement Directorate. The Delhi police are saying that they're only following up to build the case and that they have taken possession of documents and papers, hard drives from computers. They've seized them from offices and residences of the journalists that are employed with NewsClick. In that sense, viewers, the raids don't appear to be arbitrary. It appears to be part of a probe that was initiated by different agencies back in time. The government has also, of course, stepped in. Government sources have told Times Now viewers, unspooling the data, and the police are also telling us that their investigation is well founded and that there is nothing to fear as far as democratic backsliding is concerned here. Now, viewers, the government sources speaking to our channel have said that NewsClick funding via China is against the sovereignty of this country, Bharat's sovereignty. The funding avenues require proper investigation because they extend overseas. We need to investigate the electronic money trail for which we needed to raid to seize the laptops, computers and other electronic equipment, and that payouts have been made to spread Chinese propaganda, much like what the NYT had said, viewers, to undermine India's sovereignty, the national interests. So this is what government sources have told us. The police are yet to come out, I believe, with an official statement. We are awaiting word from the police. This is a very big story. Therefore, the more official information that is out there, the better for everyone's sake. Now, viewers, the government, however, has stepped in to this entire issue after it was raised by the opposition. The opposition has slammed the Centre for muzzling freedom of expression and dissent, but Anurag Thakur, the INB minister, today came out and said investigation agencies are doing their work. If the agencies have taken action, then it must have been based on evidence or a complaint. This is what Anurag Thakur has said. We'll play out that soundbite of his. Listen in.
देखिए, मुझे जस्टिफाई करने की जरूरत नहीं है। अगर किसी ने गलत किया है तो उसके ऊपर जांच एजेंसियां काम करती हैं और ये कहीं नहीं लिखा कि आपके पास अगर गलत तरीके से पैसा आया होगा, आपत्तिजनक कोई कार्य होगा तो उसके ऊपर कोई जांच एजेंसी कार्रवाई नहीं कर सकती। जांच एजेंसियां स्वतंत्र हैं, वो अपनी कार्रवाई नियमों को देखकर करती हैं।
Viewers, the opposition, as I told you, is not buying it. They are continuing to attack the Centre for Muzzling Freedom of Expression and Dissent, but the BJP says that the opposition is being selective and it is muddying the probe for political gains. Is this a fact? Is the opposition's outrage selective? Let's go over some of the hard facts, viewers, tonight. 14 anchors have been recently boycotted by the India Alliance. Their names were published, they were publicly shamed, and they were warned that if they don't straighten up their act, they will continue to be blacklisted. Now, viewers, at that time, it is quite clear that the opposition did not think that it was in any way muzzling those that ask it tough questions. There's been an FIR against Abhijit Majumdar, a senior journalist, for criticizing Udayinidhi's Sanatana statement. This has happened at the instance of the Tamil Nadu government, viewers. The DMK is, of course, part of the Indie bloc. Cartoonist Asim Trivedi was arrested for cartoons supporting Anna Hazare in 2012. At that time, the UPA was in government. The cases were filed in Maharashtra, where, viewers, once again, questions were asked of why the government was cracking down on free speech. Jadavpur University professor Mahapatra was arrested over cartoons on Mamata Banerjee in 2010. Then again, questions were asked about Mamata Banerjee's government's decision to crack down in Bengal. Journalist Gautam Dheer arrested by Punjab police after article against ex-IGP in 2005. Again, viewers, this happened when the UPA was in power. The other question that is being asked is whether the slapping of stringent measures is unprecedented and, more importantly, an attempt to chill freedom of expression on part of this government. On this count, unfortunately, all political parties are to blame. So it's not as if the BJP is any guiltier than the opposition. Is this a case of overreach? Let me run you through more hard facts, viewers. And these hard facts will stand the test of time because they're out there established. In August 2023, the UPA slapped on tribal groups opposing bauxite mining in Odisha. In July 2022, journalist R.K. Singh booked under UAPA for reporting on pollution in Giridih, Jharkhand. In September 2022, Kerala police invoked UAPA against 7 PFI activists for illegal protests. All these are UAPA charges, viewers, terror charges. Delhi police book activist Devanga Kalita under UAPA over anti-CA. This happened in June 2020. Viewers, this happens across the board. No one particular, as I said, government or political party is guiltier than the other. Let's open this up. Let's ask some fundamental questions tonight. Let me begin with Shahzad Poonawalla, the national spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Poonawalla, the question obviously will arise. Is your crackdown intended to punish free speech in this country? And remember, viewers, we are also joined by Abhijit Iyer Mitra, who has also been prosecuted in the past for speaking his mind about issues in the public domain. So he's no stranger to facing the brunt end of the law on this particular issue, and we'll of course catch up with him. But Shahzad Poonawalla, answer that question because the opposition wants to know, so to speak. And I presented a set of hard facts. You could quote them to build your argument, and I will put those questions also to Suman Raman and Mr. Poonawalla.
Thank you, Rahul, and first of all, welcome back with the hard facts. And by the way, this is not a debate about actually press freedom at all. This is about India's sovereignty being compromised by certain people masquerading as journalists but putting and pushing forward Chinese deep state propaganda. And this is not me talking, it's actually the favorite publication of some of the panelists here, the New York Times. Apart from that, there is a financial angle which has been established by the ED, wherein 38 crore rupees has been funneled into this organization through dubious means, whether it's through FDI into a new company, where the share prices are 10 rupees per share, goes up to 11,500, or unexplained 28 crore transactions which have been given in the name of export of services, but those services include payment of a electrician whose ninth pass or to the tune of 1.55 crore rupees. And in the same time, when this money was being funneled in, you have pieces being written as has been tailor-made by Neville Roy Singham, and those email exchanges are there, saying what kind of line should be taken on border disputes, what line should be taken on COVID vaccines, what line should be taken on COVID management in India and China, and so on and so forth. But there's something more troubling here. There are email exchanges which haven't been controverted yet, and I want a specific answer on this. Prakash Karat writes to Mr. Neville Roy Singham and says, the Guancha piece on the CPIM is pretty well detailed. It's good to see this type of coverage there at a time when anti-China feelings are being stoked and whipped up in the media. This was in the advent of aftermath of Galwan. This is an email that has not been contradicted. A member of the CPIM who handles the Twitter handle has been paid 50 lakh rupees. There are many other people who have also received the proceeds of this crime, and therefore they are being interrogated. Who is the Congress party to ask questions about this when their own track record when it comes to treatment of journalists, right from G14, or whether you see the way they have hounded journalists during the emergency, or even in Chhattisgarh filing sedition cases against Kamal Shukla, on Nilesh Sharma and others. That is one aspect. But the other aspect is that why is it that the Congress party, every time when it comes to China ka dhanda, MOU has been signed by them, China ka agenda, they always stand with the Chinese propaganda from Doklam to Galwan, or China ka propaganda, which is with NewsClick they stand today. Has Tehseen Poonawalla or any of the Congress people stood up with those journalists who were arrested in Mumbai at the time of the Congress government there? The Congress government has arrested journalists, the TMC government has arrested journalists. When was the time that any of these Congress leaders tweeted for them? So this is not about journalism. This is not about at all about protecting freedom of speech or freedom of press. This is about India's sovereignty being compromised. There is evidence that they must answer for it in a court of law. They have not got any relief from a court of law. By the way, just the last statement, the NewsClick organization was protected from any kind of interim action, coercive action by the Delhi High Court. Now the Delhi High Court, when it was appealed against, has now issued notices to NewsClick saying that why shouldn't we vacate that interim order. So in a sense, even the Delhi High Court is reconsidering removing the interim protection granted to NewsClick. So why is it that when the law
that
is being
remains
followed,
to be seen.
the
That's
Congress
a
party has a
procedure, and
problem
I'm
with it?
glad that India still has procedure, process. I can't seem to understand, Tehseen Poonawalla. This is a point that the Congress party and its representatives and the ecosystem needs to respond to. You stand up constantly, I'm not saying specifically you, but your side, and I think Abhijit Iyer Mitra is here and he can testify to this, that there is something called a Godi media, if you please, in this country. Now, who's saying this, viewers? This is being said by Congress party official spokespeople. And why do they call certain journalists part of the Godi media, the G14, as Shahzad Poonawalla seems to suggest? Because they believe that they're on the take. From whom? From the government at the center. Now when the shoe is on the other foot, and actually let me not come to Tehseen Poonawalla because I might not get a straight answer, or will I? Tehseen, because this is an important issue. You know, journalism is fundamental to a democracy, and if you go around discrediting people, or if there are black sheep within this profession, then they must answer. I'm not here holding a media trial on the media. I'm just asking some fundamental questions. You apply a set of yardsticks. You say there are people who are on the take. And when another bunch of people who seem to be sympathetic more to your cause are found not exposed by India as yet, by the New York Times, the newspaper that the ecosystem swears by, then it's a witch hunt if the government goes out there and files cases. How do you explain this?
Good evening, Rahul. At the onset, welcome back to the screen, and it's good to have you
Thank you.
Presenting the hard facts as usual.
Thank you.
I'm profoundly surprised, actually elated, that the government of India considers a piece of trash, which I think, and very many a times, and I've had the privilege of being with you, New York Times, to be a credible piece on which they've decided to attack terror charges. So today, New York Times is gospel. So by the same logic, the several articles of the New York Times terribly criticizing the Honorable Prime Minister, going to the extent of saying that he isn't who he shows he is. Why is that not gospel? So you'll pick and select what of New York Times is gospel? I have always said New York Times is not credible. I stand by today. But the government today picks and chooses its battles. Now let's go to point number 2. Let me go to... No, sir. You never interrupted Shahzad. Please give me the same courtesy. Point number 2. If you had to investigate something, you could have... If you had to investigate something, you should investigate it. But to bring in UAP and terror charges where the percentage of conviction is 3% under this government, they've not been able to convict anything because the process is the punishment. Is a harassment for exposing the flaws of this government during COVID and other times. And if you, Rahul, and I have a lot of respect for you, or anybody on this panel says that COVID was not mismanaged by the Honorable Prime Minister and his government, then I think that person will not be able to look at himself or herself in the mirror in the eyes. But here's another fact. Let me give you another hard fact, Rahul. There's a little bit of disturbance from your studio back door,
okay.
from your PCR, from your PCR.
Make your point.
Yeah, the last point. Just because the Congress may have done something wrong, the Congress even brought in the emergency. Does that justify today what's happening that's wrong? How can just because the Congress did something bad, the present government is allowed to do something bad and harass people? The government has no evidence except some emails which the BJP spokesperson seems to be suggesting. Why hasn't it been put out?
As I said, we should not sit in judgment of the evidence. We are not a court.
But you are innocent until proven guilty. We are not guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, so that's right. So only charges have been slapped. I don't think anyone has been arrested so far.
But I wanted to make one point. I actually lost a point because I forgot with the background.
Okay, go ahead. Make your
just
point.
1 point. Yeah, I actually forgot because of the background noise. Thank you for that, the PCR noise. attack or this attack on the media happened today specifically only because there have been several deaths of innocent newborn babies in Maharashtra, some of them for lack of medicine. The government wants to divert from it, therefore they've done this action. This action was
So tell
planned
me, why was the
only
New
to
York
divert from it.
Times, why was the New York Times lustily reporting this story some months ago? Were they apprehending that there would be these very unfortunate deaths that have taken place? Did they have a crystal ball? Did they also work in tandem with the Modi government? Come on. I mean, these are facts. One second, let me finish. Now, these are facts that have been revealed first by the New York Times.
Correct. And today it's
These
possible.
emails that we are seeing today have not been in any way, if you remember, viewers, we are not showing these emails because we have a policy of not putting out information that is not verified. The day these become part of the charge sheet, they will be on this channel. Let me tell you that. So we are not jumping the gun here. We are not going after fellow compatriots in the journalism business. We are only asking fundamental questions about the whataboutery associated with free speech in this country. And I want to bring in Abhijit Iyer Mitra, who has suffered, as I said. Now, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, I heard the same arguments being used when the government decided that they would send a few notices to the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. Yes. There was a whole jalsa outside the office. People came out with all sorts of placards. You had the Editors Guild, which is usually somnambulant, and they were when you were pilloried by a government. No one stood up for you because you happen to have differing values, systems, and views from the great esteemed Editors Guild, and I don't want to stand in judgment of it. But it has its favorites. Let's not beat around the bush here, Abhijit Iyer Mitra. And I'm asking you, whence the charges were proved and the BBC accepted it owed money, everything melted away.
So, Rahul, thank you. I think this is the first time I've been with you on News18, so it's lovely. Thank you. The thing was, I was arrested for free speech issues. This isn't a free speech issue. This is a case of money coming in from a foreign country. I also want to point out I'm completely with Tehseen on this. The New York Times, as far as I'm concerned, has zero credibility. But all the charges that the New York Times reported, it plagiarized without credit from several Indian publications, without even giving them due credit for it. They didn't even have the decency to cite the primary journalism that Indian journalists had done. And the earliest of these reports goes back to something like 2021, I think. Yeah. Just when COVID was coming under control. Now, you see, the second way that they muddy waters is much the way, since we're dealing with Khalistan at the moment. Khalistan is a joke. There is no such thing as Khalistan. What a whole bunch of drug dealers and gun runners do is that when the police comes after them for drug dealing and gun running or violent murder, they suddenly claim Khalistan and political freedom. You see, they go from being murderers to being, what was it the New York Times calls them? Political activists. You see, so political activist is the new name for drug dealer, drug peddler, or murderer. A lot of these journalists are like that. You see, they commit financial fraud. And then the moment the police, allegedly, and the moment the police comes after you for financial fraud, they go around claiming, oh, journalism khatre mein hai. Right? Now, we are seeing this again. You can't run a newspaper in India taking money from the Chinese. I think this is, point. Allegedly. This is journalism 101. You need to have the basic brains not to do that. You can get investment from China. That's perfectly fine. These people, they muddy the water saying, oh, but Ambani took money, Adani took money. Hello, sir, that is investment. China was built by access to the American market and American investment. America is today kept afloat by China buying US treasury bonds. However, if any defense company takes money from the Chinese, or if we purchase equipment from the Chinese, and information warfare, mark you, is one of the most crucial elements of warfare today. Take money from the Chinese, that doesn't come under free speech. Treason is not free speech. This is outright treason. And you know this fellow Neville Roy Singham is very closely connected. You could have done Google searches 2-3 years back and seen what Neville Roy Singham. Just do an average Google search and put the time function. You go back in time and you'll see this man's connection to the Chinese Communist Party. How were you so stupid? You know, I worked for an organization that once took money from the Chinese.
Are you saying there are no free lunches?
And we returned
Is that what
it.
you're saying? There is no free lunches, that if the money came in, even if you save as an investment, it would have come with strings attached, specifically if the conduit was this individual on your screens, viewers, at the bottom of your screens, Neville Roy Singham. That's what you're saying.
Fundamentally, a news organization, understanding it is a weaponized part of warfare, cannot have any dealings with the Chinese, period. Except maybe getting a Chinese expert on your panel.
Okay.
Full stop.
There's a parallel here, viewers. There's a parallel here under the UPA, who came up with the term urban Naxals. A bunch of people were detained, arrested, etc. because they had ties to Chinese resources. That is what we were told. And they were booked under very stringent law, viewers. And a large number of people from the ecosystem came out, and I'm talking about UPA years, and said that, look, you're cracking down on dissidents in this country. Straight parallel. Those people, some of them are still in jail. They're still in jail. They have been facing a prolonged trial, and viewers, there looks to be very little relief coming their way. Now, I'm asking Suman C. Raman. So, Raman, look, I'm not saying that these individuals have taken money and they've run propaganda, etc. But I'm only asking a fundamental question. Are we, or is a certain section of the ecosystem, the opposition, etc., muddying this probe deliberately, as Abhijit Iyer Mitra has said, to give these individuals the halo of crusaders for truth so that they can be positioned as martyrs for the cause, and the country and the government be positioned as fundamentally undemocratic? Is that what's happening?
Okay, Rahul, first of all, welcome back.
Thank you.
And let me start by saying two things. One, from the time the story broke, I've been trying to find out what these people have written in print that is, fundamentally against the Indian state, as it were. Now, if they've taken money from Communist Party of China to write anti-Indian stories, then we must have seen some of these anti-Indian stories. They've done a lot of anti-BJP stories and stories that have embarrassed the government. That's fine. But I'm looking for something that they have fundamentally written against the country. I don't know. Maybe, some of the other panelists can point out. I haven't come across. Second, the fact that these raids have happened not just on owners / full-time employees, but also contributors. Now, look, there are people who write for multiple publications. Now, that doesn't mean that they control these publications or they have ownership interests or, they are in any way, responsible for the day-to-day activities of this particular publication. And when a contributor is raided, then clearly the message is to sort of tell people that, look, this could happen to you, and tell other journalists too. My point is simple. What are these specific charges? Look, these are 3 articles which came out. They are against the Indian state. Point number 1, put them out. Second, there is money laundering which has happened, which is a violation of FEMA and these clauses, and therefore this has happened. Now, I'm still trying to figure out what it is. New York Times wrote an article saying that somebody had connections, somebody paid money. Now, was this money hidden from the authorities? It did not come through RBI channels. I'm still trying to understand what this offence actually relates to for it to attract UAPA. Second, and very, very importantly, Rahul, even assuming, hypothetically, let us say that there is some angle of money laundering which is involved or whatever. Hypothetically, I have no clue, but I'm saying, how are freelance contributors to NewsClick responsible for that?
Okay.
I mean, I'm completely befuddled by this whole thing.
Okay, let me.
I can understand. Okay, you are a shareholder,
So
you are
you're
a
saying-
director, you are a promoter.
Okay.
I can understand.
Fair enough. I got
How
your
does
point.
somebody
You're
who
making
writes an
two
article
points.
for you become
What have they
responsible
written?
for the financials of the company?
So you're asking two questions. What have they written that is fundamentally anti-India? Can you elucidate? Number one. Number two, contributors have also been booked. Why have they been booked? They're just contributors. They are not people who own and run the company, etc., etc. And this shows arbitrariness. That's the question I began with. Now, viewers, on the question of arbitrariness, I've framed the issue.
Yes.
I have suggested to you already, and I want Shehzad Poonawalla to respond to this, because I have already begun by saying
Yes.
that a large number of these raids, etc., that were conducted today, about 30 or 40 of them, their antecedents go back to 2021 and even before. So let me bring in Shehzad Poonawalla on this issue.
Yeah.
Arbitrary.
Rahul, let me
Yeah.
let me very quickly address all of this. Let me start with the last question that Mr. Sumansi Raman has posed. Anybody who is in benefit of any proceed of crime, and this proceed of crime has been established because, by the way, we have not relied on some New York Times article like Tehseen would like to project. That article came in 2023. These investigations have begun in 2021. These people, the NewsClick people, went to court. They got no relief from it. Even their interim relief has been now sent a notice upon so that it can be vacated. So clearly no legal process has struck down the ED and EOW investigation, which means it has certain amount of truth. And now on the basis of that, whoever is the beneficiary of a proceed of crime is naturally going to be interrogated. The EOW, for whatever it is thinks, and that evidence will be put out by the Delhi police, not by me. They feel that the scope of this
How do they know
investigation
it's
not
proceeds
extends
of
just
crime?
to PMLA and
One
while
second, Mr.
How
Raman.
on earth
let
would
me
anybody
complete.
know it's
Please
a
let me
proceed of
complete.
crime?
Each other.
Rahul, let
Okay,
me
gentlemen,
complete.
don't speak over
Rahul,
each other.
let
We
me
are
complete.
going to. Yeah,
Rahul, let me. I have not
know.
spoken. I am completing.
Let him
I did
finish.
not
You can
I
ask
did not
follow-up
interrupt.
questions. Go ahead.
Let me complete.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, on the basis of its investigation so far, which has not been stayed by any court of law, the agencies believe that there is an ambit of jurisdiction of UAPA being invoked. Whether you feel that is right or wrong, that is for the agency. The agency has done it. If the agency will come out and tell you in detail about it. But I have three specific answers to what you asked. One, here is an email exchange from Prabir Purkaesta and what he writes to Neville Roy Singham. Can we have a timeline of the number of tests and number of people who tested positive? This will give us a sense. China identified the virus gene sequence genetic, developed the kits, rampant their production and the testing, or contrast to countries like US and India with so much lead time, they are still unable to ramp up kit production or procurement. This is just one hint of where the mindset is. But forget this. There's something larger at play here. The larger point that is at play here is the fact that in this money that was received illegally, 11,500 rupees for per share or unexplained exports of services, the money has now been funneled to Gautam Navlakha, who is continuing to be under UAPA, and Gautam Navlakha belongs to an organization which is the UPA banned. What is Gautam Navlakha got to do with anything which is an editorial or media exercise? Is he a journalist? Now Mr. Sumansi Raman may portray him also as a journalist. Forget that also. Thirdly, I am saying that Congress party today has a long history or a track record where it has taken money from the Chinese into RGF. Its FCRA has been cancelled. They have not challenged it. They have had dealings with the Chinese into the extent that they have even gone and supported the Chinese narrative on number of issues. And today on issue like propaganda of the Chinese, they take in the name of freedom of speech side of NewsClick. But have they taken the same side of other journalists who are hounded for
so
instance?
that
Mr.
question of
Basti,
selectivity is well established.
Rahul, you must allow me to refute
Yeah,
one
second.
point.
Yes, yes. I will.
One fundamental point, Rahul. I must refute.
Yes, yes. Doctor, go ahead.
Yeah, one point, Rahul. Just one. Yeah. This is the most bizarre logic that I've ever heard, and unless the law has been changed in India, that, and let us say you are an employee of a company and you are receiving your monthly salary. Every month you get your salary. 2 years later or 3 years later, your employer is accused of fraud. Can you be arrested for receipts
this
of
is
crime because
Dr.
you are
Raman.
receiving your
No,
salary?
I
mean, this is the most bizarre,
One second, gentlemen.
bizarre explanation I've ever heard
Okay,
in
one
life.
second. You're oversimplifying. Abhijit Iyer Mitra
please
comes in
tell
on
me,
this
please
point.
tell me, Rahul.
Yeah, let him respond to you. I don't ask me. I have been a very neutral a participant in this debate for a change.
No, I'm completely gobsmacked
that,
by this argument.
No. There is an argument there to be made. There is a counter
That
to this.
every
Mr.
time
Mitra,
you
Mr. Mitra,
accept a fee from a company,
No.
you have
It's
to
not as
verify
simple
that it
as
is
that.
not proceeds of crime.
It's not as simple as that.
I mean,
Mr.
it's
Mitra,
incredible.
respond.
Gautam
See, the
Nandaka was
principle-
accepting fees for what?
The principle of law here, is very, very clear. If you receive orders which you know are fundamentally illegal, your action is illegal. This was established by the Nuremberg trials beyond all reasonable doubt. It is now an absolute principle of law. What starts off as a corollary for human rights now becomes a principle for almost all law. Now go back to what Shehzad read out of what the editorial line should be, how it should be spread, etc., etc. The people who got raided today were spreading that particular line. Now the issue is they have not been arrested, they have been raided. Why have they been raided? To ensure if they knew or did not know what they were getting up to. Did they conspire with the editor or did they not? This is the investigative process. So, I find it fascinating that Sumant is already making out a conclusion of guilt and involvement, when in fact we are simply when we are in fact simply going through the investigative processes at this point.
That's the point. Why are we coloring by jumping to conclusions and running to give clean chits? Tehseen Poonawalla, relax,
We are not jumping
calm
to
down.
any conclusion.
Of course you have.
Nobody is
Raman,
giving them a clean chit.
Sumansi Raman, you have,
Sorry.
Sumansi Raman, you have already presumed that these people have done nothing wrong. This is the same thing we went
Not
through.
at all. No, not
When
at
the
all.
BBC story,
I am asking a
this
question.
was your same
Can I ask
position.
one question?
Let me bring
One
it.
small
I'll tell
question,
you.
Rahul.
Sumansi Raman,
Rahul, just
Sumansi
one
What
small
happened to
question.
the BBC?
Just one small
Gentlemen,
question. Both of them can
why
address
are we
it.
talking
One
over each
small
other?
question.
Please. One second. Let Tehseen respond and Shehzad, you'll have the
small
last word.
question. Just 10 seconds, one small question.
One second. Tehseen, yes.
No, they can answer it.
Abhijit is right. Abhijit is right to the extent that there is a presumption of innocence from both Sumant and I. There is right on that. But the presumption of innocence is what is the legal jurisprudence. Rahul, you are innocent until proven guilty. You're not guilty until proven
Investigation.
One second.
Investigation.
Allow me to. Rahul, please give me the respect to allow me to finish. Thank you, sir. I mean, cannot keep interrupting. Just now, I understand the BJP spokesperson is in a hurry. Just 30 seconds. The BJP spokesperson is very clever by half. He says the court is considering lifting the interim stay, but the interim stay has not been lifted. You're either pregnant or not pregnant. The stay remains. Considering
I
something.
corrected him on that. That's fine. I
Yes.
corrected him on that.
Yeah.
What's the point
So
you're
now-
making
so now-
substantively?
so now-
Why are
so-
we politicizing
so now-
a probe?
so
We did this
now
with the
this is
BBC,
now-
and we know where we
now
ended
to
up with
answer,
that.
Now the BJP spokesperson may answer Sumant's very specific question rather than reading out some lines from some email.
Okay.
What was the article that led to insult of India?
Okay.
They criticized the government, but the government was
Let
not
me-
up to it against China.
Very
as
quickly.
China
Shehzad
was.
Poonawalla.
You can agree,
Yes.
disagree with it.
I don't have much time.
Casual.
Shehzad Poonawalla, we need to
Very
move on.
quickly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Very quickly, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
If this was a genuine editorial news exercise, they have written multiple articles on Rafales which they got horribly wrong, not one corrigendum published, but leave that aside. In PMLA cases, Tehseen, the presumption of innocence shifts. So you have to prove that you are innocent. It's the guilt, the presumption shifts, and you have the burden of proving you're innocent is on the accused. This has been the law. It's been upheld by the Supreme Court. So Tehseen, you're not adequately informed as to how PMLA works. PMLA works with the presumption of innocence not being there. The presumption of innocence has to be proven by the accused, not by the
Therefore, they put this
investigator.
to
Viewers, let me just step in here.
Established
Let me
law.
just step in here. I need to take a
This
short
is the
break.
Supreme Court position.
One second, gentlemen. I need to take a short break. The fact is, viewers, that no one is holding a media trial. We are only asking a very basic question. Has this crackdown been arbitrary and is it selective? On that, I think, viewers, we stand on pretty solid ground to say no, it isn't. We'll take a very short break. We return to another major controversy. Stay with us, don't go away.